All right, let's jump right into a critical strategic briefing because a real high-stakes chess game is playing out in the Red Sea. And Egypt, well, they've just made some huge moves that have caught pretty much everyone by surprise. And we're here to break down exactly what it all means. You know, some analysts are actually calling this whole situation a trap for Egypt's president and its military. That's a really loaded term, right? It hints at the high-stakes intrigue we're about to unpack. So, who's laying this trap, and what are they really after? And that's really the heart of the matter here. You've got these major threats piling up at a super critical maritime choke point. So the big question is, how's Cairo responding? Well, the answer is a strategy that is way more muscular and ambitious than anyone saw coming. Okay, so to really get a grip on Egypt's big play here, we've got to start in Yemen. What's going down there isn't just a local issue, it's a direct threat to the whole region's stability and to the shipping lanes that are, the very lifeblood of Egypt's economy. Yeah, Yemen has pretty much become a proxy battleground with different powers carving out their own spheres of influence. You've got Saudi Arabia backing groups in the north, Oman with a hand in the west, the UAE, the UK, and the US supporting the south, and then of course Iran is backing its own proxies. It's an incredibly fragmented and, honestly, a really dangerous landscape. And just when you think it can't get any messier, it does. There are these leaked reports floating around that suggest a total game changer is on the table. Israel possibly recognizing an independent southern Yemen. Now, if that new state then joins the Abraham Accords, those normalization agreements with Israel, that completely changes the security situation at the al-Mandab strait. That's a huge choke point right at the mouth of the Red Sea. For Egypt, this isn't just politics, it's a direct challenge to their national security. So, facing this growing threat, what did Cairo do? They didn't just sit back and react. Nope. They went on the offensive. And this is where we see this massive power play that, frankly, nobody saw coming. So here's the absolute key takeaway. Egypt moved, and they moved decisively, to plant a major military presence right at the mouth of the Red Sea. And look, this wasn't just some routine naval patrol. This was about physically taking control of key islands to lock down that waterway and project power way, way beyond its own borders. First up, they set up a critical foothold in Djibouti. They actually took over operations at the Rose-aly port. And you got to understand, this isn't just about business. This is the forward base for both economic and military operations in the Horn of Africa. But they weren't done yet, not by a long shot. Egypt also set up a new presence in Eritrea, right near the port of Assab. This just further tightens their grip on monitoring and controlling all the maritime traffic flowing through the Red Sea. And we're not just talking about one or two little outposts here. Sources are reporting multiple Egyptian bases popping up all across the region, including near Somaliland. They're creating this comprehensive web of control. And the kind of stuff they're deploying, it's significant. We're talking a combined naval and air base, we're talking ground forces, an advanced missile shield, and even a presence down in southern Sudan. This is not some temporary mission. This is a full-spectrum force built for long-term regional security. Okay, but you can't make moves this big without people noticing. A recent Newsweek report is even asking if this whole thing is a trap being laid for Egypt. The idea is that this massive military buildup is actually provoking a really powerful countermove. And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict. So as Egypt is flexing its muscles in the Horn of Africa, what's the pushback? What does this supposed counter-strategy even look like? This really breaks down this standoff perfectly. So on one side, you have Egypt projecting its power, right? Securing the Red Sea with all these new bases. And on the other side, the alleged response from the US and Israel. We're hearing about potential sanctions on the Egyptian military for buying Russian and Chinese weapons, diplomatic pressure to slow down their military growth, and basically a big push to make sure Israel keeps its military edge in the region. It's a classic containment strategy, plain and simple. All right, so let's zoom out for a second. What do all these moves and countermoves really mean for the bigger picture? I mean, are we watching a fundamental shift in the power dynamics of the entire Arab world? If you look across the region right now, the one word that comes to mind is fragmentation. You hear whispers of a new Arab autumn targeting monarchies. Libya has two competing governments. Sudan, two warring factions. You see the push to fragment Yemen even further. Somalia has multiple separatist regions. All this disunity makes any kind of unified Arab response incredibly difficult. And some analysts would say that serves outside interests just perfectly. And all of this leaves us with one final and really crucial question. In a region that's facing these massive challenges, are these nations going to keep going down their own separate paths, just driven by their own interests and outside pressures? Or
Is there a way for them to unite and actually forge a common destiny? The answer to that question, well, it's going to define the future of the Middle East.